On this episode of China Uncensored, how the Chinese Communist Party liberates women. Hello and welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. March 8th was International Women's Day. According to the UN, it's a time to reflect on progress made, to call for change, and to celebrate acts of courage and determination by ordinary women. Which explains why last year in China, they celebrated the holiday by seeing how fast people could undo the bras of complete strangers. Hey, standing in your underwear in front of a crowd is definitely an act of courage and determination. I should know. Quick historical note here. Before the UN adopted it in the 1970s, International Women's Day actually started as a socialist holiday and then a communist holiday. So in China, it was first celebrated after the communists founded the People's Republic. Back when the well-known feminist Chairman Mao famously proclaimed, "Women hold up half the sky." Anyway, I've been looking forward to seeing what crazy ways China celebrated Women's Day this year. For more on this, we go to China Uncensored's female person, Shelley Zhang.
Thanks, Chris.
One thing I've always wondered. Why do women in China only get a half day off of work for Women's Day?
I'm not sure. Maybe if women held up the entire sky, we'd actually get an entire day off.
That's a good point. Women do need to work harder. But back to the important part. How did Chinese Staterun Media embarrass themselves this year?
Well, sorry to disappoint you, but there wasn't anything really crazy. I guess after the foreign media last year made fun of things like husbands dressing up like punching bags or guys walking up the mountain in heels, Chinese media didn't want to do the same old thing this year.
Are you saying that relentless mocking can change things for the better?
You tell me, Chris. You're the one who started China Uncensored. Anyway, I can't say for sure that no comically sexist events were held to celebrate Women's Day. I can only say that Staterun Media didn't report extensively on any. The People's Daily even refrained from posting slideshows of beautiful, scantily clad women, which is a big step up for them.
I am impressed. So Staterun Media learned their lesson about sexism?
Almost. There was this tweet from your favorite, the Global Times. They thoughtfully used International Women's Day to remind everyone not to forget about men. Then, after the backlash, they thoughtfully apologized by throwing a male editor under the proverbial bus.
That's interesting. I didn't know there was an International Men's Day. Gotta put that in my calendar.
Let's be real, Chris. Every day is International Men's Day.
Hey, we can always use another reason to celebrate. Speaking of, how did women in China celebrate Women's Day this year?
Mostly by shopping. Pretty much the exact opposite of the Day Without a Woman protests elsewhere in the world, which ask women not to work and to refrain from buying things to show their economic impact.
So in capitalist Western countries, women marched and went on strike, while in communist China, women went shopping.
It's the ever-changing world in which we live in, Chris. Retailers renamed Women's Day to Queen's Day or Princess Day to attract customers. Burger King even went the empowerment marketing route, which was previously mostly done by beauty products and tampons.
Empowerment marketing?
Oh, you know, when a brand digs into the deep-seated insecurities of women, but in a touching, relatable way, until they reveal to women that they were the Burger Queen all along. In fact, all women are Burger Queens.
That's so beautiful. Everyone is a Burger Queen.
Okay. Oh, also Victoria's Secret celebrated by opening a flagship store in Shanghai.
That's very important for our episode thumbnail. You know, I support this massive push towards consumerism because when people shop, capitalism wins. But what does the Communist Party think?
The party supports this consumerism as well. It's because of what state-run press agency Xinhua so hilariously calls the she-economy.
She-economy? That's a good one.
The point is, the Chinese government needs women to shop. Women's spending is expected to almost double in the next few years, which is hugely important as the Communist Party tries to move China from an export-driven economy to a consumption-driven economy like the U.S.
Okay, I understand that. But doesn't the Communist Party want to use Women's Day to get back to their men and women are equal feminist roots?
Those roots are a lie, Chris.
I thought Mao wanted equal rights for women. You know, the whole women hold up half the sky thing?
Mao didn't say that. It was a mistranslation. Like how Machiavelli said, the ends justify the means. Except he didn't. What Machiavelli actually said was, one must consider the final result.
That's kinda different.
Right. And what Mao actually said was that women can hold up half the sky.
What? That doesn't sound so girl power anymore.
It's true that the communists abolished foot binding and gave women the opportunity to get an education and work outside the home, but it wasn't because the communists altruistically believed in the equal rights and freedoms of women. Mao liberated women because he felt that they were an untapped source of labor. When the party took over China, they needed to ramp up production fast, and you can do that much easier when half the population isn't forbidden from working.
So what you're saying is that...
The Communist Party wanted women to be equal with men so they could be equally exploited and controlled by the party state. And the labor force is just the beginning. When Mao believed that China needed more workers, he convinced women to have more babies. When that backfired and the party believed they were facing a demographic crisis, they started the one-child policy.
Leading to forced abortions and sterilizations.
Yes, and party officials monitoring your periods.
Wait, really?
Yep. All ways in which the party tries to control women's bodies. And you know the thing they started about 10 years ago about leftover women?
Yes, educated, unmarried women over the age of 27.
Well, now it's 25. And there aren't leftover women in China. There are about 30 million more men than women. The whole thing is a propaganda campaign. The party is trying to manipulate women into getting married younger so that they can avoid the social instability that comes from having too many unmarried young men.
Wow, you're talking about a lot of issues here.
Yeah, sorry, it's just that Women's Day only comes once a year, so I have to kind of cram them all in.
What? You can totally talk about women's issues even when it's not Women's Day.
Well, thanks, Chris. That's very generous of you. In fact, in honor of International Women's Day, I'd like to present the first annual Most Outstanding Woman of China Uncensored Award to you, Chris.
I get an award?
Well, after all, by starting China Uncensored, you gave me a platform to talk about women's rights in China.
I'm going to hang this up in my trophy room, right next to my China Uncensored Host of the Month award. And this gives me a great idea. I'm going to create a Most Outstanding Man of China Uncensored Award for International Men's Day. And do you know who I'm going to give it to?
Wow, I have to say that's very...
Me!
What? You're going to give yourself the Most Outstanding Man award?
Yeah, I mean, you're out of the running since you're a woman. Like Matt is ever going to win Most Outstanding Man. I'm the obvious choice.
I'm speechless.
Don't worry, Shelley. You'll always be a burger queen.
Oh my God.
What? I thought that was supposed to be empowering. Well, what do you think about Women's Day in China? Leave your comments below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored.